Good morning. Good morning. I am Michelangelo Bell. I am the Chief Executive Officer at Community Based Connection. And today I have my lovely guest. Introduce yourself, Sandra.
Yes. Absolutely. My name is Sandra Dennis. I'm the president and founder of Avancé Ensemble, and in Haitian Creole, that means moving forward together.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. And as you know, uh, at Community Based Connection, we always believe in expanding the available option that changes the odds. Our mission is to expand the available options that change the odds that help children be socially and academically successful despite the many challenges they face and regardless of the many negative influence. And so we've been proud for the past 11 years, over 11 years, to serve all of Broward County in the South Florida through early childhood education, family strengthening, uh, kinship support, juvenile prevention, and as well as workforce development. And so we're happy to the great work we're doing here at Community Based Connection. And Sandra, if you could just tell us a little bit about Avance.
Yeah, absolutely. When I came down from college, I went to school in Gainesville, but I'm a native to South Florida, grew up in Merrill's Park and Fort Lauderdale, represent. And it dawned on me that I had started meeting so many amazing Haitian American professionals, and there wasn't necessarily a space for us to meet and to co-create solutions to our community's issues, both here in South Florida, but also as we think to what's happening back home in the country. And so I would say Ensemble really exists around three priorities. To ensure that Haitians born stateside, Haitian Americans just like us, can preserve Haitian culture in us and our children and their children. They'll know what D Cole is rice. They'll know how to make it. They'll enjoy compa music. And so that's the first pillar. And the second two really is around building economic power in the Haitian American community, as well as building political power in the Haitian American community.
Right.
We're really thinking through what does it look like for our community to be strong as a collective, as much as we've been able to build individually in this area. And so I'm excited to be doing this work. We have an amazing team, and I think we've been doing amazing work. Next year we'll be 5 years old, and so we got to do something big for
Yeah,
that.
I hear you. Great stuff. Great stuff. Look, let's just jump right into it. We're here on the C-suite talking about the challenges and opportunity about as it relates to nonprofit. And one of the things that always you know, comes out, as a black organization led, what's the feel? What do you get? What do you feel like some of the most what I guess I should ask you this way. What inspires you? And then what are those moments where you kind of cringe? Like, this is difficult.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I'm going to throw it back to you in a minute once I answer. I think for me, what inspires me is that um, our people are a beautiful people, and for all that we know that our folks are experiencing in communities, we should not still be here, but we are, right? Um,
Mm,
our kids shouldn't be at the top of their classes, and they are, right? We shouldn't be in the roles that we are, and we are, right? And so these are the things that I'm inspired by, that I come from a culture, a Black community that, despite it all, find a way to excel and do it so beautifully with love in our hearts, with community culture that we hold on to.
right.
That inspires me like none other. And even, we often think about our ancestors, what they were able to do with so few resources, and the resources and technology that's available to us. How can I too, when I get elderly and I'm about to take my last breath, how can I feel like, job well done, Sandra? You really provided the space for the next generation to even take it a few steps forward as well. And what about you, Mike?
I got to tell you, I think what inspires me the most is knowing that we are able to obtain an opportunity, I guess, receive an opportunity to change a life. You know, being able to change a life. That's 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 what's impactful to me. That's what gets me up every morning, knowing that at the end of the day, the work we do uh, is impactful. Watching that child who was maybe 2, 3 reading level behind is now reading on the education level that that child needs to be on. that mother who is in terms of in terms of relative caregiving, that mother who is raising a niece or a nephew or a child from her community, or that father, right? Because we don't want to leave the fathers out, right? As a father to myself, that I'm very proud of, raising another child that's not theirs, right? So it's in providing them the support that they need so they can be effective and successful, right? Or maybe it's when we, look at our mental health component, our juvenile prevention, making sure that child have all the protective factors around them so they can be successful. That's what inspires me. What can be challenging at time is the fundraising, right? Because normally people feel more comfortable giving money to organization that's not black led, right? So the argument can be made for those who have national umbrella, but those with the deeper pockets normally go to those with the national umbrella, or they go to those that they're more comfortable with that may not press all the buttons for them, right? While folks like me who continuously advocate for equitable opportunities, right, is how do we move that forward? How do we receive the funding, the unrestricted dollars so we can be successful? Because here's the truth. Here's what people don't talk about. With grants, you kind of structure into what you can use those dollars for and what you are not able to use those dollars
Right.
for. However, for with unrestricted funds, I should say,
Yeah.
we have more of an opportunity to use those dollars for them unexpected needs,
Right.
right? And I think that's where we have to kind of speak to those who are giving donations. You know, grassroots organization oftentimes are the beacon of hope for the community, right? Not to take anything from national umbrella organizations, not to take anything from larger local organizations, but those that have boots on the ground,
That's right.
those who the community just come knock on their door, right? I think about Mama Curry Closet, who we house here at our office at Community Based Connection, right off 6th Trunk. So stop by. We what some would call the midtown of downtown Fort Lauderdale, but we just call it 6th Trunk.
That's right.
Where our doors are always open. But just to say, people walk up to our doors and knock on our doors, right? Open our doors, say, man, I need a job. Hey, I have a situation. I'm adopting my daughter. Think about this. Last year, we had over 10 fathers who either obtained joint custody or sole custody of their child.
That's amazing.
30 of them opened up a bank account for the first time. Now, this is part of our fatherhood program, our fatherhood mentoring program called Awesome Dad, Awesome Men. We have to do a better job as advertising what we do. But even when we advertise very well, we still get the short end of the stick. So I'm not saying that to complain about the short end of the stick we're getting, because we're thankful for our funders. But those who have the private dollars, we just want to encourage them. Think about the grassroots, the little guy, the little woman, who's doing the work that no one see at night, that no one is paying attention to, right?
I think you nailed it.
Right, the one who's paying the FPL bill, the one who's paying the utility bills, right? The mortgage support. Just last year, we gave away almost over $100,000 in COVID relief support. So we're talking about the impact. So I get excited about talking about this work, and it's just passionate. But let's talk about this. When we talk about navigating leading nonprofits from a navigation standpoint, when you come in as a leader, what's your thought? What goes into that?
Yeah,
what's the process?
I actually want to go back because you said a word I think is super right on, spot on, nailed it around. It's transformational work. It's transformative. It's
Absolutely.
work that will change the trajectory of folks' lives. When I think about the work we do with, let's say, first generation Americans, Haitian Americans whose parents didn't grow up in this system who don't understand the educational system as much as we do, who weren't business owners in the ways that we have. And so who's guiding those folks to say, hey, you should think about this if you open a business, after you graduate, what do you want to do with your first job? How do you think about your salary when you have folks that you need to take care of rip? And so I've been saying some is having those conversations as well to ensure that folks are not walking this race or running this race on their own, but they also have people to bounce ideas off each other. We're talking about investments, right? None of our families, at least the ones that we're talking to, invested in the stock markets before. Many of them didn't have what we would say standard small businesses. And so a lot of us are really doing it on our own for the first time. What would it look like for us to build a community that can support each other in this? And so that is what, I also consider transformative work. And then to you on around the point around being a executive director or a nonprofit leader, change agent, for me, it is, you don't know what you don't know, right? Sometimes you walk into, as a Black woman, as a younger woman leader, I think that when we talk about fundraising, I think the stats are honest that Black leaders don't have nearly as much of funds as their white counterparts. They're also, even when they're giving dollars, they're not giving unrestricted, they're really giving restricted dollars. And so that daunting around not having the professional networks, not coming from, we would say in Haitian Creole bourgeoisie, but not coming from well-known families, also sometimes puts you at a step back. And so we just got to be honest about what the pressure feels like being someone who comes from an immigrant community, who is a woman, who is doing amazing work, but often is unseen and is invisible in this space. But what we do, we work hard, we grind, we get this work done anyway. And I think that we also want to ensure that people see the transformative work that we're doing and invest in it as well. Because if they were to invest in it, we could double, triple, quadruple the impact that we're having in the communities. So that's to me what is weighs heavy on me as an executive director. And I'll just say really one more thing around. I think it's also inspiring to other folks. Like my team, they get to see a younger leader of an organization. They get to be mentored. I get to also hire folks who I can train and mentor and get ready for a role that I wasn't always given that opportunities to be in these meetings with people, talking about what they're talking, learning about budgets, learning about strategic moves, learning what a theory of change is. All these things are things that I had to learn on the job, right? But I'm given opportunities for my staff and my team to also learn these skill sets so that they can be ready when their time is to come as well.
So thank you for making that wonderful point. You come in as a leader to an agency, and the ideal around it is, you're trusted. The community is trusting you to lead, right? Because you're not just leading yourself, right? You're not just leading yourself, but there's several people alongside of you in a community that's walking alongside of you, that trusting that you have the path to kind of guide their children and next generations to come.
That's right.
And that's what we're really talking about, right? How do we navigate the system of unrestricted funds and private donors to kind of hear the unheard, right? And so as a leader, I always say, when I talk about my impact, I'm not just passionate about it, but I'm going to give you the facts of why we're the best at what we're doing. And I think we have to be unapologetic about knowing our community better than anyone else. Let me just say this. Our the founder of Community-Based Connection, Brian C. Johnson, he had this philosophy that we still carry today when he decided to pass the organization over to me. He said, Mike, what makes us so unique that we already live in the community and we already experience what we are going through. We may have made it out, so now we can teach others. So here's what CBCI have always practiced. And even we put it in our proposals and everything else, that those who live experience are in a better position to serve the community.
That's right.
right? Because I understand where Miss Jackson down the street, I know she knows when kids are skipping school where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she also know who's hanging out on the corner late at night and where their parents are at. See, it's that grassroots approach that, again, we're going to be better at telling that story. But most importantly, if you just give us, because we ain't looking for nothing for free, because we're working. Oftentimes, we are required to do the work before we even get $1.
That's right.
Right? So I can talk about myself in that capacity. We was doing the work before we received $1. Because our heart are just naturally in it. We are just naturally resilient people. And so when we talk about the work itself as a leader, we have to, again, think about how do we lead? And are we leading with in a true, authentic way?
That's right.
Because the more, I'm going to say it this way in a non-political sense, the privileged society will tell you, oh, you have to lead this way. And it'll just, no, I don't have that privilege door you have. So now not only do I have to work hard 10 times harder than you, but now I got to work additional 10 times hard just to surpass where I'm trying to go. That's in the benefit of our community.
And so there's also accountability, right, Mike? Right. There's an accountability that these are your people, right? Like, let's not get it, it's not people that
don't get it twisted.
No, it is our people who, look like us, speak the languages that we speak, that we see ourselves in them. So there's an accountability to, we got to get this work done. We got to be about business because we're talking about people's lives, right? That people who so closely resemble you that often it shakes you up, that you like, right, this actually could be me, right? And if I didn't have a Mike in my life growing up, that would be me, right? Yeah. And so I think that this is the energy, this is the passion that leaders like us, grassroots leaders, are given to the work that we do. And there's an opportunity, Mike, coming up for you, for folks to double down, give in a huge way at your holiday party.
Yes. Oh, yeah, most definitely. Be there. I got it for you. Listen, Christmas holiday party, we're doing it. Last year, we touched over 1,000 families.
Wow.
Because a good colleague friend of mine realized that it's not always equitable. And she's like, look, I want to partner up with you, and I'm okay being a silent partner. But my friend Tiffany Dogie, I got to give a shout out to her, who noticed that there's folks out here that looks like the community, that's serving the community. Their board reflects the community that's doing the work.
That's right.
Right. So shout out to my friend Tiffany Dogie for that. So this year we're putting on this event on December 2nd from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Cynthia Cole. The address, shameless plug, 3446 Northeast 12th Ave, Oakland Park, Florida, 33334. 33334. Again, that's 3446 Northeast 12th Ave, Oakland Park, Florida, 33334. And again, it's from 6 to 8, $30 a ticket. So it is affordable. Again, so I'm going to speak to that too, because another thing is folks will pay $100 to go to someone else's event that don't look like me, but expect us to always provide a discounted cost. And so, again, that goes back to we are always fighting to get to where we need to be. And so I guess, I want to kind of go to
really quick about the ticket. I mean, the tickets are $30, but they can give more, right?
Oh, they can absolutely give more. Actually, we have some folks who have donated more than $30. They are giving more than $30. Again, we're doing this for the kids. The organization, every dollar we raise, we spend for the kids.
That's right.
None of it goes towards us just unaccountable dollars just being spent. And I'm always happy to sit down with anybody and provide our financial audit.
That's right.
And so we get audited every year from funders. And that's another thing. We're grateful to be audited because it holds us accountable, right? So shout out to my funders, Church of Service Council of Broward County, United Way of Broward County, ChildNet, the Jim Moran Foundation, Casey Family Services, just shout out to my funders for believing in the work we're doing right here in the heart of the community, grassroots approach. So let's get back to the business of nonprofit. So let's talk about when we're building the team. When we're building the team at a nonprofit, what are some of the characteristics you're looking for to build that team?
Yeah, that's such an amazing question. I think for me, one of the questions that immediately come is like, how do people see communities? If people see communities from a deficit mindset, if they don't see communities, if they don't have a love for communities, and I'm not talking about a love for people like Sandra who are in, leadership role. I'm talking about if you don't like people from Six Trunk, if you don't like people who struggling, if you don't see value in them, you don't see the gifts that they have, even when they're in the midst of their life, you can't come, be a part of the organization because that's just not the values. And there's so many people who do nonprofit work who don't like people, who don't like our communities. And so you really got to love the people. You got to really love this work because this is deep work. This is, we cry all the time for the stuff that people are experiencing. And so like for me to be a part of the team, you really got to value people, see folks from an asset-based perspective, seeing that, growing up, specifically, you say you're in the heart of Six Trunk. Six Trunk has always had culture. Six Trunk has always had great food. Six Trunk has always had great people. But some people, once they hear Six Trunk, they don't see that, right? So we're looking for connotation. Yeah. Exactly. We're looking for people who can see past what they say about us and really know who we are as a people. So that's what I'm looking for. But also you want to think about the skill sets, people who are from the community, people who, even if they don't have, because, people took a chance on us as well. So you don't have to be perfect. You just got to be willing to get there, right? With some coaching. So for me, I'm always looking for mentorship opportunities to pull people in who want to be more connected to the community and be in service to the community, and share their assets and their gifts with the community. Because I say everybody got gifts, right? How do we put those best use in our communities as well?
Yeah. So when we talk about that talent, you want that talent that reflects the community to its core, right? Because you can't fake this work. You cannot fake the work at all. And so for me, when I think about the talent that when we go out and recruit, right, I think to myself, are you able to go in that house when nobody else wants to go? Because see, we have program, like we have a safety management response team program here that's funded by ChildNet. They are going into the homes. So this family literally have 30 days before the CPI, the Child Protective Investigator, decide to remove a child. And we have to make sure that home is safe for that child and that parent.
Right.
And we only got 30 days to do it.
That's real work. Right?
And I want to make sure that team member that I'm bringing on board, are you comfortable going to that house 3 to 4 times a week to make sure that home is safe? And I know you have a caseload, but can you manage that? We're talking about intense case, because you may see when you walk up, someone out in front of the house doing some business they don't have to do. They have no business doing, I should say. And are you able to correct that in a manner where they'll respect it because you understand the culture and environment that you in? So we got to be real about who we recruit, but you also have to have that gift.
That's right.
So you got to be true to the core, understand the culturalistic aspect of it, but you also got to have the gift. When I talk about the gift, I'm talking about a heart as gold, right? Because you can't do this work without heart, right? You got to be sincere about it. You got to be authentic about it, and and I'll just share this because sometimes people don't realize, sometimes you're coming out of the pocket when the funding is not covering it. When the grant funded program does not cover it, your unrestricted funds come out your own personal pocket. But again, because we know how this work happens, we almost expect to do that all the time. And so these are some of the things we just don't talk about. But guess what? We here on the C-Suite Challenge and Opportunities talking about the ins and outs of nonprofits. So I want to kind of go back to something to kind of help someone who may be watching. When you start off a nonprofit, what are some of the first steps you have to do when you start off a nonprofit? Do you just write a letter and say, hey, I'm a nonprofit, Do you file with some bids? I mean, what are you filing for your EIN number? Like, what are some of the things you have to do to become a nonprofit?
Absolutely. And for sure, I know you can help out a lot. You got to have bylaws. You need to have 3 officers. You need a secretary, a treasurer, and the chair. You need to have your bylaws, which will say how you would function. You got to submit that to the state. Let them know, and the feds know that you want to be 501c3 nonprofits. Not all nonprofits are 501c3, but if you don't want to pay taxes because you're doing the Lord's work, you're doing the good work,
right.
make sure that you get that submitted. And so many of us again learn that trial by fire, that we are doing it on our own and sometimes missteps. But there are organizations, I think, also people in the community. As we talk, Mike, you and I, like, we're getting to know each other, and we can be a resource to each other as well. So I'm going to also tell folks that they can always reach out to us as well and ask us about how we got started, some of the challenges that we faced earlier on, but also how we were able to get that. I will also say, in terms of getting a nonprofit started, many of the funders want you to at least have 3 to 5 years worth of work and impact before they even give you money. And so when Mike brings up, you taking money out your pocket, that is real. Many of us, when we got started, there was no donors, but we knew that the work was the work that we were born to do, that we're super passionate about it. So we were willing, while our families are looking at us like, what's going on here?
Right.
We were willing to invest in, the work, invest in the community to ensure that folks have a better shot at life, that folks' lives can be transformed. And again, I even say specifically, I used to be a youth leader at a church. You're planting seeds. And even right now, sometimes when you're planting seeds, you may not see it. But some of my youth that I knew in 5th grade, 6th grade, now in pharmacy school, right? And if the hell they gave me when they were in middle school, them in pharmacy school, and for them to respond and say, hey, Sandra, I appreciate all the work that you gave. Mike, I'm sure you have 20 times those kinds of stories, but we are planting seeds in our communities that sometimes, for sure we know we're doing the work, but the impact will affect generations to come, right? And so, like, to me, that is why, we need to have these nonprofits, get it set up, fund us, right? Ensure that that these people are from the communities. I didn't just drop into South Florida, born and raised in Broward, went to school here. Have many friends. All of my family's in Broward County. I love Broward County. I am Haitian. I love the Haitian community. And I am here for all things Black people, because I know, based on systemic things that have happened to us, if anything else, folks got to double down in our leadership. They got to double down on our organizations, because there's so much work for us to do. And if they do it, the result is clear, right? The work speaks for itself, right? So I'm excited to be having this conversation with you, Mike, but also inspired to also talk to other people who are in this work, new to this work as well, who wants to make sure that they can get it started and done well.
Right. When you talk about a startup nonprofit, you need that financial resources. And again, oftentimes you're saving money from your last job in order to fund the future, right? And like you said, everyone trying to figure out, you look like you done lost a few weights. You look like you're not eating. You look like, because you're so caught up in what you believe in. Because it is great work we're doing, right? And so when you talk about that, you talk about filing for your EIN with the IRS. You're talking about becoming registered with the state of Florida. Some bids. You talk, or whatever your state may be. Just in case we have some folks that's not from Florida on here. But you're also talking about when you talk about that board, you got to have some real people on the board that's going to help you raise money. I just want to hit on that again. You got to have some real people on that board that's going to help you raise money.
You can say it one more time.
That's going to help you build that relationship to bring in some of that unrestricted funds. And so that's important, because sometimes we put our friends and family on boards. And I can tell you right now, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Unless they're bringing some resources, do not do it. Because other than that, you're hindering your growth. Right? So that just a couple points. Then another point I would encourage: track your success. because as you mentioned, funders want to see, what have been your success, your record. We all keep a record. Let's be honest. We got a record when our friends do us good and when they do us bad.
Right.
There's a record when you call somebody. There's a text message that keeps a log.
Right.
There's a record about everything. So don't get upset if someone asking, hey, show me your proven work, because that is indicative of the outcome of what you're receiving, right? So we want to make sure that you track your own progress of how you're doing it. And that may just be doing some pre and post surveys, some satisfactory surveys.
That's right.
For the family that you're touching, do they feel like there was help?
Testimonies.
Those testimonies, all of those make an impact.
Absolutely.
And then I want to hit another point about, for those that's in the startup world, fiscal agent. Sometimes you can apply for a grant through a fiscal agent. When we started off, we had Alexander Roderick Harvey, who was our fiscal agent. We graduated from that. Now we're in position to be a fiscal agent for someone else.
Right.
And the purpose of that fiscal agent is almost that you essentially you're using that person's line of credit. You're using their financial booking, and pick a fiscal agent that have good booking.
That's right.
Their finance are in order, right? Because the last thing you want to do, you applying for a grant and both finances are in trouble, right? So your bookkeeping has to be key. So picking a fiscal agent would allow you to apply for certain grant, and sometimes, depending on the score, the financial score of that fiscal agent, it depends how much money you are ultimately able to receive. So a fiscal agent can be as helpful because they are actually required to do a few things. One, to make sure your book tracking, your bookkeeping are in order. Two, to make sure your programmatic outcomes are being met. And three, to also make sure the quality assurance of both components are in existence and there's policy to follow it.
That's right.
So we want to make sure that you know about fiscal agent, because guess what? That's a plug. That's a major key, as DJ Khaled would say. That's a major key, because at the end of the day, it allows you to get into that door and be at the table.
That's right.
And so I want to talk about being at the table, since I hit on that real quick. I know we only got a few more minutes, just a couple more minutes. We're here on the C-suite, talk about challenging opportunities. So let's talk about being at the table. And we're going to close with this. And real quick, for those who just joining, don't forget, Community Based Connection is having a holiday celebration with toy drive. $30. You can donate more than $30. You can also bring a few toys with you. So please, ma'am, please, sir, like us on Facebook at Community Based Connection and see about the event. I got a flyer right here just for those who want to see it.
That's right. Beautiful flyer.
Here's where we're having it. We'll put some more information out. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We on all social media outlets. So let's talk about being at the table. I think this is a good place to close. And we won't be back this long on this. But how important it is to be at the table when decisions are being made that ultimately impact your community and your organization.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a question to end on. The responsibility and we talked about weight a little bit. Sometimes feeling weighed down. When you talk about folks who are making decisions, often they don't know the lived experience of our communities, right? Sometimes they don't know certain interventions won't work, right? You know how many times I tell folks, look, you're talking to everyday people. You're gonna have to do more than post an ad on social media to reach people, right? That's not where all of our folks are. You got to be on these doors. You got to be in the communities. You got to be at these peewee games, right? You got to be ensuring that you're in space with communities. So I think it's really important. And I think that also when you're at the table and when decisions are being made, I'm not there for me.
Right.
I'm there for us. I am one, but I am many, right? I'm thinking about my entire community, how this decision is going to impact them. And I'm also kind of like calling on the ancestors, calling on my God to ensure that I step into my leadership and have courage, because often we're the only voice to be like, actually,
Mm.
I don't know about that one, right?
Mm.
I don't,
Yeah.
that may not work for our folks, right? Actually, that might be more harmful than you think, right? And so, like, it takes a lot of courage to be like,
Mm.
everyone who doesn't look like you, who's in the space, are going in a direction, and you got to bring them back in and be like, hey, I have the lived experience. I know these folks, they know us. Would you consider something different, right? And we saw it, and I'll give an example. One of the things we saw during the pandemic is on an application, people were asking for, specifically around testing started happening, they were asking for residency. Residency means a lot of different things to people,
To a
right?
lot of different people.
A
Yeah.
lot of different people. And we're like, look, immigrant folks are going to see this and think that they need to be a U.S. resident when y'all are asking, where do you live? I'm like, ask the question, do you live in this county? Because you're missing people, and you're going to have people not come because of this. So again, they were putting out a simple application that would have had negative impacts on the communities we serve, right? And those are the reasons why we got to be at the decision making table, because sometimes you come with a perspective that others don't have, right? So that's really, really important from my perspective. What about you, Mike?
So I'll say I'll close with this, that our let me say it this way. We do not need anyone else slice of pie. That's not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
We just want the same recipe that you're receiving. Because here's the thing, when we are at the table, we know the look, we have over 400 years of lived trauma experience. So we know what our people need, because we do our own focus group. Because our focus group are at the barbershops, the salons, churches, community on the corner, right? Our focus groups are different. It's not behind the desk and inviting people in. We're going where the people at, and that's part of the problem. Too often we're expecting people to come to us. We need to go where they are at.
That's right. That's right.
Because our focus group starts there. So when we have the same recipe, we are able to bake our own pie.
Uh-huh.
And essentially what I'm saying is that us being at the table is just as important as anyone else.
Mike, can I dig deep?
It's more important.
Thank you.
Right?
Let's be honest.
It's more important.
It's more important.
Ultimately, if we want to be real about it, ultimately, we are serving those who look like us. And again, our board look like those who look like us. Our leadership look like those who look like us. Now, I don't want someone to say, "Oh, he's preaching over there," but I just know this, and we're done. I just know this. At the end of the day, seeing the smile on a black and brown baby face, seeing the smile on a white baby face is always important. On an Indian baby face is important. On a Haitian baby face is important. Jamaican baby face is important. All the faces of the children are important. But our people are often at a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. And so we have an opportunity culturally. We have an opportunity from a systematic standpoint.
That's right.
We have an opportunity from a leadership of those in power, making policies standpoint, to change this thing around. And if you need some kind of help to guide your vision, thank you to Kimberly Campbell, Kim Campbell, and Cindy from CEO of CSC, who is funding the 2-day racial equity work group. Go get that 2-day training. I promise you it'll be impactful to you. But if we're going to have some real policy changes, you need us at the table for economic standpoint, educational standpoint, health standpoint. Bottom line is you can't do anything without us.
Why would you want to, right?
And why would you want to?
Can I say one more thing?
We are a community.
I just want to say one thing. I know we got to wrap. I think also, like, it's not we look like them, but we are them, right? You're talking to community, and none of the things we're bringing when we're at the table is separate from the community. Like, they're sending us, right? And so I wanted just to add that we come on behalf because we're talking to them on the day-to-day, and they're saying these are their needs, and we're honored just to bring that forth on their behalf.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So y'all, we at the C-suite with challenges and opportunities as it relates to nonprofits, but also talk about leadership and our responsibilities as effective community leaders. Thank you so much, my sister.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And to y'all who's tuning in, please tune in next month, because I think we may have a special surprise for you all. So again, thank you to Community-Based Connection family, the Avance family, and tune in next month. We'll send out all the details. Peace and love.
Thank you.